Hey everyone, thank you for joining me for my review of Blonde, one of the most controversial movies of the year, probably the most controversial. Ever since it was announced and details came out, it's been surrounded by everyone being very upset and also curious about how this was going to be executed. Marilyn Monroe, known as Marilyn Monroe, but her real name is Norma Jean, has been a figure that has been throughout Hollywood, an icon for decades, and is well known that she was exploited and abused throughout her life, but she also pushed forward a lot of things for women in the entertainment industry. There's been a lot of books and films about her throughout her life, some that take some of the salacious stuff and heighten it, and some things that uplift some of the other more serious aspects of her career. Well, this movie is adapting a book that's a fictional retelling of her life. So this is not a biopic. It's not saying that it's true facts, not based on true fact. It's taking different events in her life while using the things that, as the viewers of her life, the gossip and all the things that was rumored about her, and weaving that in, telling a story of someone that went through a lot of trauma, trying to just find a way through life and be loved by someone, because she went through a lot of trauma as a child and continues to get taken advantage throughout the movie, which made it one of the most uncomfortable movies I've had to watch, but one of the most engaging, backed by some crazy direct. But does it work? Is it any good? Does it make any sense? Before I get into the premise, I want you to hit that like button if you like this kind of content. Hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to the channel and help it make it grow, and share this content with your friends, with your fellow movie and television show enthusiasts. Let's get into the premise. Let's get into the good. First, I have to say the production value of this movie is out of this world, and I've never seen a movie film, sound, or move like this in my life. Andrew Dominik is the one that helms it. He wrote and directed this movie, and his direction is like a fever-like dream, going from scene to scene seamlessly, just whipping through different parts of this character's life, this person's life, and it just feels like you might be on drugs. It's trippy as hell to see and gorgeous to look at. And I have to give credit to Chazy Irvin, I think that's how you say the first name. Beautiful, gorgeous cinematography work that they do with even the color and the black and white settings, because the movie shifts between black and white and color throughout the movie all the time, and all of it looks amazing. Nick and Warren, who are the people who done the score and the sound design for this film, knocked it out of the park while trying to some of the most traumatic aspects, bringing like a horror tone to it, while also transporting you to the 50s and 60s, using the music and the sounds from back in the day to make you feel like you're there. And together, these people created this film that feels like a raw traumatic reality mixed with a magical fantasy in it, and it's just something, a concoction that I've never seen before. And while the production values, the directing, and the score is all fantastic, Ana de Armas is the reason why this movie works the most. Her performance is phenomenal, as she embodies the way we think, or the people saw Marilyn Monroe and Norma Jean at the time, not how we know by the history, because once again, this is a fictional retelling of the events of her story, and she plays this character who goes through a lot of trauma as a child because her mother wasn't well and didn't have a father because he left early. So throughout her life, she's trying to find love through different people, and they continue to take advantage of her. So she creates this Marilyn Monroe persona so she can get adoration and a love from the masses. But unfortunately, that becomes starting to haunt her, as people really think she's that ditzy blonde character that she's forced to play because of the time that she's in the movie industry. This movie is a cautionary tale about a lot of female performers, artists' life, as they struggle to try to get the equal rights as an actress or performer as their male counterparts, because they're a woman and they want the directors, the writers, the managers are just using them and putting them through through the most unsavory situations ever, and this movie just is this harrowing, just non-stop, just trauma event after trauma event. But there is so engaging the way it's directed and weaves through, and Ana de Armas just does a fantastic job embodying this fictional version of Marilyn Monroe, and I want to focus on that. This is a fictional version of her. Certain aspects, obviously, if you look at her biography and certain other movies, are there, but it's more about the version of the person that we heard rumored about, because I didn't know a lot of the things that Marilyn Monroe did in her life until this movie, and I went to go research to see what parts were real, and a lot of the aspects that they got in here are actually factual, but they add a lot of fictional parts to heighten the trauma. And halfway through this almost 3-hour movie, my stomach started getting queasy because I started feeling really bad about all the crazy and traumatic things that this woman was going through. And even when there was some lighter moments, some moments of happiness for her, they were fleeting because those moments led into more trauma. It was just crazy, and it just shows like all the aspects of a lot of these women from that time they go through. And one of the themes that I think was smart that Andrew Dominik wrote into this film and directed was that us as viewers are part of the problem, because no matter how traumatic and how crazy and how harrowing this movie felt, I couldn't stop looking. I was fully engaged throughout the movie for almost the whole runtime. And I think there's this aspect where he points at us and saying we're a part of the problem as well, because we want this drama, we want this stuff to happen, we feed on it. Even to this day, anytime something bad happens to celebrity, it gets passed around, it gets memed, it gets joked about. Nothing is taken seriously and thought about the actual person. And Ana de Armas's Norma Jean kept saying, hey, no one knows what I'm really like. They just see the persona. They don't understand what I really want. Let's get into the bad. So while I realize that Andrew Dominik is adapting a book, fictionalized retelling of Norma Jean, Marilyn Monroe's life, like any great adaptation, there's room for modernization or improvement, and I think he focused way too much on the NC-17 aspect of the film. Should have used some of that time to talk about some of the positive things in her life, and maybe some of the things that you did to push forward in the industry for women, like owning a production company, also being one of the first women to choose her directors, and how she changed the game for a lot of icons, sexual icons, to become serious actors. I think if that was balanced a little bit more, this movie would be a lot easier to stomach, especially for people who are fans of Marilyn Monroe. I don't have an emotional attachment, so this movie doesn't insult me as much, but I can imagine if you do, this is just really feels really exploitative of her, and that's one of the biggest gripes that people have, and I think that is an actual fact. Like, it does exploit a lot of Marilyn Monroe because it shows her as this ditzy blonde that has no agency and just going from traumatic event to man to traumatic event and has no choice in the matter, when that's not actually true. I get that the book was trying to depict the way we saw her, but I feel like he should have added a little bit more of her agency and her intelligence and her accomplishments throughout to make a stronger film. And to double down on that, I think that the third act falls apart just a bit because it just keeps going into the traumatic experiences and kind of leaves the happy experiences behind. It just kind of just ends. And I think that if we've gotten some more upward moments in her life, when that final we all know Marilyn Monroe dies because of an overdose, unfortunately, because she was addicted to a lot of different drugs, trying to hide behind the pain that she's going through life, even though she was doing a lot of amazing things, and she overdosed. So we get to that point, but it doesn't feel as impactful as it could have been because we just saw a bunch of traumatic experiences. So I think that, like, once again, the balance of the character and how it was portrayed could have been executed better. Let's get into my verdict. So for me, this is a very divisive and weird movie for me to review, because on one hand, I think it's one of the best movies I've ever seen in terms of how it was made. I think that the story, the way it was told, and how it didn't have like this main storyline, just kind of told moments, and the way it shifted through the moments and used a lot of metaphors was brilliant. But it is exploitative. It also depict, even if you take away that the fact that this is supposed to be Marilyn Monroe, I just think the character just wasn't balanced enough. I think it was just kind of a one note, and it made it feel like she never learned from her mistakes, which was I think was a problem. but it's just, I was just so engaged, and my mind was so wrapped up into the movie that I do think it was great. But I feel like it could have been done a lot better, where this could have been a masterpiece if he would have just adapted the book in a way where it balances the actual intelligence and the accomplishments of the person that he was depicting. So with that said, I'm going to give this movie a B. I'm scared to ask, did you like it? Did you hate it? What would you rate Blonde? I know a lot of people don't like this movie right now. It's standing at like a 43% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I think like a 36% audience score. So I know I'm in the minority when it comes to this. A lot of it is because of how aggressive it is with the nudity and some of the sexual content. It is NC-17. But what did you think when you watched my review? How did you feel about it the way I did, or do you think that it's just glossy, with the production and everything like that, but the story doesn't hold? Let me know in the comments down below how you feel about this movie and Ana de Armas' performance. Like the video if you like my review, hit the subscription button to help the channel grow, and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of my reviews, reactions, and ranking lists. And you can check out more of my content right now.